I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Carolyn Howell, and I'm the host of this segment of RTV.network. Today, in the middle of the month, a little bit past the middle of the month of Entrepreneurship Month, I have a very special guest with me in the audience. This is Art Taylor. Art, welcome.
Carolyn, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk with Art Taylor, because by the time this show ends, you're going to learn something really valuable, and you're going to be inspired to tune into his regular TV show, where he's going to help you understand how you can take control of your life and your career right now. But before we do that, we want to find out more about Art Taylor. Right now, Art Taylor is the president and CEO of an organization called Give.org. Also the BBB Wise Giving Alliance. But I'm going to ask him to go back a little bit further so that we can get some insight into this wonderful human being and find out just what motivates him, and especially motivates him with his very latest initiative. So Art, tell us about yourself. I mean, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, but tell us about yourself.
Well, I was going to say, I'm kind of old, so to go all the way back, we wouldn't have enough time.
That's all right.
But I grew up under pretty humble circumstances. You know, I was raised by a single mom who worked 37 years in the kitchen of a department store, and she raised two boys to be college graduates and lawyers. So, you know, I watched a woman go to work every day, never complain, and teach us the importance of hard work and perseverance. And I carried, I think, some of that throughout my life and my career, you know, just basic things like, you know, you start something and you finish it. You know, you don't quit. And sometimes maybe I should have quit some things too earlier, but I didn't. And I just believe that there's so much that I've accumulated in my life that I'd like to begin sharing with others. For instance, I got a chance early in my life to lead an organization that was entirely devoted to economic development and human development.
Wow.
An organization called Opportunities Industrialization Centers.
Opportunities Industrialization Centers
of America.
Okay.
It was founded by the great Leon Sullivan, who was a giant in the civil rights movement, and he was really focused on improving the lives of people who were left out and forgotten. And, you know, through that experience, I came to appreciate just what we could do as individuals to drive forward not only our own lives, but that of those of others. And I also got to understand just how important that was. You know, America is a deeply rooted capitalist society, and we tend to get the best out of ourselves and out of our society when we follow the dictates of that brand of capitalism. But we're also compassionate capitalists. You know, we don't like it when some of us make it and the rest of us are left behind. And I got to actually live on both sides of that world. I had a chance to work for some of the most prestigious companies coming up as a CPA and see how they operated. And then I got a chance to spend a lot of time working in the nonprofit space, helping others get a foothold in that capitalism. Today, I head an organization that evaluates nonprofits. It's called the BBB Wise Giving Alliance. So I'm still on the philanthropic side. And we've been helping people who hustle through charities to make the lives of others better. But now, as I get to this fourth quarter of my life, I want to also make sure that we're enabling people and telling the stories of people who have fought hard in the marketplace, on the capitalist side to make it work. And I especially want to hold up the stories of people who are out there hustling every day, who don't even realize that they're business owners.
Wow.
That they are, really
Let's
out there
just stop there
building
for a minute.
our society,
I love, just some of the things that you've been involved in. So it seems to me from a very early age, you were helped to appreciate, not only to appreciate your mom, but her efforts, and it really shaped your character as an individual.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
So that idea of just wanting to do as much as you can, but not just for yourself, not wanting to leave others behind. And so you mentioned Mr. Leon Sullivan, and he was a mentor for you.
He was definitely a mentor. And I followed, to the best that I could, what he taught me. And that was that we don't leave others behind. And our society doesn't work if we do. America is based on this notion that we can build a strong middle class, and that there will be some, of course, who will rise above the middle class and achieve extreme financial rewards, and that we all should be able to aspire to that. Now, we know that there have been barriers to some of us for achieving that, and we're going to get into that on the show somewhat. But we're at a point in the history of the country where it's never been easier to start a business.
Wow.
And
okay.
The tools for success are so much more robust than they were when I started, that I want to just get it out there that we all should be doing something to not only enrich ourselves, but to maybe demonstrate to our children what's possible if we were creative, hardworking, and persevering.
Wow, that's a really big goal that you have in mind. But I love the title of your new show. And starting next week, you're obviously going to be airing this, but it's called Self-Employed and Rising. So that's interesting. You said and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, that most people don't even know that they're business owners. You said they're out there hustling. And, we make this statement all the time. We say the struggle is real, the hustle is real.
Yeah.
You ask somebody what they're doing and they're hustling. Mm-hmm. And we used to make fun of somebody who maybe was doing 4 or 5 different things.
Right.
But you're really going to put that in a different light. You're going to elevate how we view that.
I think we should. We have to. Because the world is so dynamic right now. Things that you thought you could do a few years ago, you can't do today.
Okay.
Things that you never thought you could do 10 years ago, you can do today. And we have to constantly evolve and to adapt to what's going on in our world today. It's just so dynamic. And people don't necessarily understand that. I think we see it and we feel it, but they don't see the opportunity in it as much as they should.
Well, I think, and I know you're right about this. I hear people all the time. A couple things that you said that I definitely want to get back to as our conversation continues. Mm-hmm. You say that most people don't even know that they're business owners. So we want to talk about that. You said never has there been a better time to start a business. Absolutely. I want to get back to that. And just because let's face it, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, mm-hmm. and we're going to a new phase of it. So I want to know how you feel that these things are even possible. If all of this is going on, how could that possibly be the case? So from your standpoint, why is there no better time to start a business?
Well, first of all, because the tools that connect us and enable us to reach markets and to become sort of renowned and to get our message across are robust. They're everywhere.
You're right.
We are interconnected. Information used to be contained in silos where, only certain people had access to certain types of information. Now information is free flowing. A person in the deepest jungle in Africa, if they have a phone, can get the same information that a person sitting in a White House can get.
No, I love that. And we really have to think about that, because literally, whether we like it or not, and whether you're a fan or not, social media, let's face it, social media has become social marketing. And when you think about it, you're exactly right. Yeah. If I have a gift, whether I can sing or dance, or I can create a product or have a service to offer, I can let you know that with a tweet or with a Facebook post or an IG post, or I can go on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
You're exactly right. I guess for most of us, we never thought of it that way. It used to be, what is your huge marketing budget?
Mhm.
And there had to be a strategy around that.
Yeah.
So when you say it that way, okay, I do buy into what you're saying. There may never have been a better time because we're so interconnected.
Yeah, and the things that we can learn. I mean, they're inexpensive ways of acquiring information. If you want to know something today, you can go on YouTube
I know.
and figure out how to do this. I never wrote a business plan. Well, I guarantee you there's somebody on YouTube that'll teach you how to do a business plan, and it won't cost you.
In multiple languages. There's no doubt about that. I definitely agree. That's what's wonderful. And we don't even think about those tools.
That's right.
From that standpoint. So I do love that. Something that simple. That is a really good point. So my marketing is out of the way. And if I don't know how to do something, I can certainly plug into those kinds of resources.
Yeah.
But thinking in terms of a show like yours, Self-Employed or Rising, you said you want to tell stories of people who have made it and persevered. What are some of those stories that even while you were working back with that OIC organization?
Well, there was one story in particular. It was a guy who bucked the trend, so to speak. You know how books, everybody was saying, don't open a bookstore. That's not going to be successful. Well, this gentleman opened this bookstore in North Philadelphia, which is a place that is, home for a lot of, quote, forgotten folk, and under-resourced people. He opened a bookstore, and he had in this bookstore people who self-published. Of course, you could get other books as well, but he also made his bookstore a community spot. You could go in and have a cup of coffee. People from the community would be there offering different ideas and shows, or they would give different kinds of presentations. If a person wrote a book, they could be there to do a book signing. So he made his bookstore more of a community center. And of course, people bought books too, but they could get information about things going on in their community as well. So he was able to use the core of it to sell books, but to expand out by finding his right of way. And I think all of us need to think about, what is our right of way? What tools and assets do we possess that give us the ability to sell, market, and potentially own and be successful at a business?
Wow.
We have many more than we actually realize.
And I appreciate the fact that you're going to help our viewers and our listeners understand just what those are.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, and I hear it often, that people are saying, well, I can't find a job, or I can't find the job I want, or I don't know the move that I want to make.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to make it possible for people to tune in and find out some of the things. In other words, I'm not saying it's as easy as finding money inside your sofa cushions, but this is going to be a resource. They're going to pull up something that they didn't realize that they had. So
Absolutely.
I love the fact that you're going to be able to address things like this. Now, the beauty of it all is that this is going to be accessible to everyone, and you're going to use the basis of your own career experience and your own desire to give and do more to help people understand.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm really going to try to get out of the way and let people who are doing it at every level tell their stories. I'm going to get into their lives. I'm going to get into their heads, and we're going to pull that out so that you not only get, here's 5 things you can do to be successful. I want to get beneath that. I want to understand, what motivated you to even think about those 5 things. And I want people to get in between the 5 things. In music, in jazz, we talk about hitting a note,
right,
but then there's a note in between the note. And that's what I want to do. I want to get in between the note. I'll never forget years ago when I was graduating law school, they would take us around to meet other successful lawyers and hear their stories. And one day I was kind of frustrated because there was an attorney who I really looked up to who had been wildly successful. And he was asked to tell his story. And he said, I went to law school and I had good grades and Next thing you know, I got this great offer. Well, that's not how it went.
Exactly. And I want you to hold that thought right here, because when we come back, this is called a cliffhanger. When we come back, we're going to find out what that story was and get a little bit more into Art Taylor and finding out just what is self-employed and rising and how you and all your friends can benefit from it. Stay tuned.
I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level.
And we're back. We're back with Art Taylor. Art Taylor is the president and CEO of Give.org. And I want to give you a little bit more information on him. He is actually going to be hosting a brand new television show that you're already inside of, which is Self-Employed and Rising. But let me give you a little bit more background on Art. As I mentioned, he is the president and CEO of BBB Wise Giving Alliance. And he's been doing that for about 20 years. He was appointed to this position in 2001. In addition to this, Art has been behind really the real energy behind so many other initiatives within the organization, GiveSafely.io, and the Heart of Giving podcast, where he shares stories from people in almost every walk of life as to the idea of the heart of giving. So what makes a good giver? In addition to that, Mr. Taylor launched Wise Giving Wednesday, which was a blog helping people to understand, obviously we want to give, but we want to give responsibly and give to reputable organizations that are going to do what they say with the dollars that you've given them. In early 2012, he led a collaboration of the Mobile Giving Foundation. In addition to that, he has collaborated on multiple other projects. And we have him with us here today because, unlike some people, he mentioned earlier, in the fourth quarter of my life, what I've decided to do, many people are looking for retirement, or they're thinking, I want to move in a different direction to support themselves. He's looking for ways that he can continue to give. And that's what Self-Employed and Rising is all about. Now, he was in the middle of a story telling us about an attorney who kind of gave us kind of a really condensed way that he had become successful. What's the real story there?
Right. The real story is that you can't have been African-American in the 50s and 60s and ended up in one of the top law firms in Philadelphia. There was some pain, there was some struggle, there was some doubt, and there was a lot of courage and strength too that went along with that. And it would have been wonderful to hear about those stories, because as a young attorney at the time, we didn't know that. We didn't know what it would take. We look at them and you could easily say, well, he just dropped out of the sky into that role, but we know it wasn't that. So what I want to make sure we do with the show is that we get into it. I want people to really understand the struggles, the pain, how people overcame the obstacles that stood in their way in their path to success. There are going to be people we talk to who are dealing with enormous challenges. Wow. And I want to lay them right out there, but they're dealing with them joyfully because it was their choice to engage in business for reasons that may go beyond even making money.
I love that.
And this is what people don't understand. I think that there's joy in achieving a goal, but there can also be joy in the process of getting to it. And the people I want to talk to are those folk. Really small businesses, really micro enterprises sometimes are just getting started, and it's hard. But they get up every day, they put on a smile, and they say, we're going to make today a little bit better than it was yesterday. And they're going to go through many learning experiences. I don't like the word failure.
Okay,
they're going to go through a lot of learning experiences, but we have to invest that way in ourselves in order to become successful in any way, shape, or form we describe success. So I want to tell those stories, Carolyn. I want people to leave here feeling that show really gave me something.
I love that. And let me tell you, I know that the show is going to inspire others, because it was not until I had a conversation with Art Taylor recently that I realized something in my own family that I had never known. Because I started my first home-based business in 1978. And I thought, wow, I'm the first person in my family to really start a business. But after talking with Art Taylor and listening to him talk about what we do, I realized that my own grandfather, I had watched him plant and sell vegetables in Southern Maryland. He would plant them, we would pick them, get them all together, get them pretty, and he would take them to market. Never before had I viewed that as a business, or had I viewed my grandfather as an entrepreneur, until I talked to you. And I can't be the only person thinking that way. Sometimes we'll frown, we'll meet somebody and they have a little stand set up, and maybe they're selling socks, or they're selling scarves and hats, or bottles of water with a cooler, maybe downtown Washington, D.C. And we're like, they're just hustling. But you said it. That's the hustle. They don't realize they're in business.
That's it. I love it when I see the kid. People, I know some people look at me and say, well, what? But I love seeing a kid standing on a corner selling bottles of water.
I will buy it.
I love that because to me, that kid is saying, I can take what I have and convert it into something more. and offer a service that obviously someone needs. I love that. And that kid one day is either going to learn how to become wildly successful, or they're going to learn something about their character through that experience that's going to make them successful in other ways. So I remember when I was a kid, I mean, the junior high school in our area would open up at night.
Okay.
And they had a wood shop and a metal shop. Well, we would go into the wood shop, and they would teach you how to make things with wood. We all make shoe shine boxes. And we would make our shoe shine box, go out to the police district when they changed shifts, and we would sell shoe shines.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, we didn't make a whole lot of money, but it gave us a sense of responsibility, a sense of purpose.
But you were really in business.
We were in business.
And see, that's the point.
A little bit of get a quarter here, but we were doing what we had to do.
You were in business. And that's the whole premise behind your show, Self-Employed and Rising. So you mentioned these micro enterprises. Sometimes we don't think about it. We have many outlets where you can go and purchase things for one cost. So you buy a case of water, or you buy socks for $1 and you sell them for $2. You know what? You're in business.
Yeah.
And if you continue to do that and do more of that,
Yeah.
or maybe there's something that I mean, I never thought of it quite in the same light until I started talking to you.
Yeah.
And you might start out micro, and then you wind up, because most people don't wake up and they're these big businessmen or women.
And for me, it's generational. I mean, I look at my own situation. What you want to try to do is leave examples for your children. And I look at our kids, and they're doing amazing things. Even in their jobs, they're doing other things. So, my son is a software engineer for a major company, and he does things on the side. He's building like side businesses with his coding experience,
I love it.
My daughter's helping business owners, through her employment to rise. And so we want to do things that give our kids, that plant the seed for our kids as to what they can do. And it's amazing what can happen in a generation. So some of this is recognizing that someone some time ago did something for you. And regardless of how successful you are, you can plant a seed so that next generation can become successful. I want to see that. I want to see the stories of people who are about that. And I want to inspire people to do it. Now, I recognize, Carolyn, that we also need to see businesses that can scale.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to see businesses that can really grow, that can hire thousands of people, and that can make lots of money and deliver lots of services and products. We want that. And we want to recognize them and see how they did it too. But they started somewhere too.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to deliver into the pipeline. In order to get more scalable businesses, we have to get more businesses or more people with a business mind for self-employment in the pipeline.
I think that's fantastic.
Think about all the outsourcing. Companies are outsourcing things.
Absolutely.
Right? So they don't want to hire people to do something that maybe they could hire someone else to do. Maybe you can be that person.
You know what? And I think that that's great to even think about it. And we're going to want, I know for a fact, you're going to want to hear from viewers and listeners who themselves are stories of triumph. And really, as you mentioned, not failure, but stories of challenge overcomers. How about that?
Yeah.
So
I hope people reach out to us on the show and say, hey, I got a story.
Well,
I'd love to get you on.
I would love to have you. I want to watch as this unfolds over the weeks and months to come, because I realize that you're going to be tying people to opportunities, and you're going to be tying them to resources that they can use. Because if they're at step one and they are that micro business, they are just starting, or they have a side hustle that they're trying to make their real bread and butter job, you're going to be here with the resources to help them. And that's exciting.
Yeah. Can I got to plug my wife.
Please plug your wife.
So my wife, Yolanda, we call her Yo, as you know, she has spent most of her career in the airline industry as a flight attendant. But there's so many things she learned being a flight attendant about people, about women in particular, because she had flown with a lot of women who had different issues. And she was always interested in fashion, even from her early days. She would get the magazines, she would spend hours looking at clothes. And so when she retired a couple of years ago from the airline industry, we started talking about what she could do next. And there was some talk about getting a job, but it made a lot more sense for her to follow a passion. And that became a business. It's now, at the style table. So,
and we're going to wait and hear all about this and how he's assisted her and how he can assist you. Stay tuned.
And welcome to Behind the Inspiration Podcast, the show that encourages and motivates with our 5-minute interviews of inspiration. My name is Ken Waller, and I am your host. The Behind the Inspiration Podcast is a part of my moving forward by helping others identify what true inspiration is. Behind the Inspiration Podcast was developed to provide a platform for sharing awesome, uplifting stories by individuals inspired by events or situational experiences in their lives. Inspiration motivates you to be better and to do better. Different things inspire different people. There is so much inspiration in this world. It's important that we start to highlight the things that inspire us versus the things that are destroying us. The Behind the Inspiration Podcast can be heard right here on Anchor Podcast or on the podcast platform of your choice. Thank you in advance for tuning in.
I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level.
Self-employed and rising.
Indeed.
We're here having a wonderful conversation with Art Taylor, who is the brand new host of the brand new show, Self-Employed and Rising. Interesting title because he's letting you know if you're self-employed, you're in business, no question, but you are rising and who knows where you can go. So continue. You were telling us a wonderful story about your own wife, as a matter of fact, who started to take a passion in her life, which was fashion.
Passion was fashion. And the trick was, well, what can I do in this field that I could actually succeed with and really help people with, and that would give me pleasure. And it turned out that it was a combination of how clothing and a person's emotional well-being align.
Absolutely.
You know, if people look good, then they do feel good. And my wife has spent a lot of time throughout her life just listening to, you know, hardships of some of her former colleagues. And she got to understand that people can feel better when they dress better. And she also got to understand some of the issues that people have, time, not really knowing how things work together, that she really understands and has studied. And so she's put a business together to help women who want to announce to the world through their appearance that they're at a new phase.
I love it.
It's wonderful. I'm so proud of her.
Well, I'm happy.
I know this business is about to just blow up.
Well, it was doing well before, and so clearly it's going to. And the key is just that, self-employed and rising, understanding how what you are doing, you can do better and more effectively, and how that can continue to grow and help you to grow.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about so many things along the way as it relates to just the stories of people that you've met that have overcome hardship. And when they couldn't find a job, they realized they needed to do something. They've got to eat. So there's one story in particular of an individual that stands out. Could you share that with the audience?
Yeah, I wrote something about 10 years ago called the African American Self-Employment Manifesto.
Okay.
And when I wrote it, it got some attention, particularly with a preacher in Delaware by the name of Chris Bullock, who is very well known and highly regarded in his community and nationally. Well, Chris jumped on the bandwagon with this because he saw great opportunities, especially for people who would never probably get a job. And he had been doing a lot of work with people who had been incarcerated. And he had one great success story that I held up. And it was about a young man who had been incarcerated early in his life. He came out of prison, looked for a job, and of course, because he had a felony, he couldn't get employed. But he got an opportunity to drive a truck. And there was a chicken farm, and he would need to drive this truck to get the chicken produce into the stores. And he would drive that truck literally 18 hours a day, back and forth from the chicken farm and he was so impressive, never missing a day, that the owner of the company said to him, "I'm going to help you. If you want to, let's get you another truck." And he got his second truck, and he was able to get someone else driving. And before long, he had a fleet of trucks. And he was able to not only work with that one chicken producer, but other chicken producers. So here's a person who would never have been allowed back in society, at least in the workplace, because of his felony, that found success and enjoyment and a meaningful life because he turned to self-employment. And I just think that, you know, there's so many people who we can look at, Carolyn, and say, what choice do I really have? No one's hiring me. I don't have the pedigree of education that others have. And, you know, I don't really see myself succeeding in a workplace. Well, maybe you need to figure out what you can do for yourself. And there are ways of doing that now. There are ways of doing that. And you can find meaning regardless of how much money you make you can find meaning in your life. I love people, even who I'm sorry, not love, but you know, people will look at folk who do network marketing and
Right.
say, "Oh my God, we've all had the network marketers come and try to sell us something, family." But you know what? I love them. I love people who do network marketing, even though I don't buy this stuff all the time, because you can learn a lot through network marketing. Even if you don't succeed in making money, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot about sales. You can learn about how to manage a business. You can learn things that you can take off network marketing and still be successful. So I never downplay that. And in fact, I lift up those people. I guess maybe my show is going to be a little off kilter to some people, Carolina.
But that's okay.
Because I want to hold up and I want to recognize and I want to appreciate the energy and courage that these folk have to get out there and make something happen in their lives.
I love it. I absolutely love that. And I think it makes so much sense because people are looking for jobs. Right now, I heard it was made mention of the fact that we have the quit society. People are quitting.
Yeah.
Because some of them, the pandemic has helped them understand that they don't want to do what they were doing.
Yeah.
But the gig economy, we have a burst of creatives, especially in DC, Maryland, Virginia, in the DMV. Creatives have learned, I mean, they do what they love,
right?
But now they're learning how to turn it into a business. You know, I think about young women and men that I know that have a talent for art, or maybe they've just taken someone else's product and they can embellish it, whether it's a sneaker or some sort of shirt. You know, I'm not mad at the gentlemen that are outside the concerts that used to be outside the concerts selling t-shirts. You know, the way I think any honest work can be honorable. And so I like to think within reason. So I like to think that that's something worth being commended. And when we look at the creatives among us, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, I think your show is really going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, our orientation is different. So our orientation is, you know, when you were growing up, chances are your parents said, "Boy, you better go out there and get a job.
A good government job.
You better go get a good government job too, if you're lucky, right? Get a good government job, good benefits and all that." And okay, for many of us, that is a pathway, right? That's somewhat of a pathway. But there are more of us, I believe, who could have been business owners and could have been more successful in business, particularly from marginalized communities.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you look at the numbers, it bears it out. You know, African Americans, for instance, aren't as savvy in terms of the number of businesses as the majority population. And so what we want to do is help people appreciate that even if you do have a full-time job, maybe there's something you can do on the side.
Listen, I think that is fantastic. And I want to continue to talk more and more about it, because some of the things that we used to look at is not as exciting, or is not, those are real jobs and real businesses. Who would have figured if you've got a car, you've got a job, and you think about it, I think about the number of people, what would we have done during, you know, when things were shut down, if it were not for those Uber and Lyft drivers doing various things. So if we can help people look at things differently, and your show's going to help them do that, look at what they do, look at what they have and the talents they possess, and see, am I already in business and don't know it? And if so, how can I get better resources around that? How can I get the support that I need? So I'm excited to hear some of these inspiring stories as well. When we come back from our very last break, we're going to round this out with what folks can look forward to with Art Taylor, Self-Employed and Rising. And we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. name is Carolyn Howell, and I'm the executive producer of the Caribbean Food Network, the newest and the most fabulous way to eat, drink, and think. Food, fun, anything culinary, travel, tourism, you name it, we're in. Right now, I'm standing in Cookology, or at least one of the Cookologies. Cookology is a fabulous recreational and professional way to learn how to cook. And isn't that what we all want to do? Eating is how we keep going. So in a minute, I'm going to introduce you to Maria. Maria is the founder and the owner of Cookology. We're so excited about our partnership and what the Caribbean Food Network is going to do. We can't wait for you to see. So sit tight.
Hey everyone, welcome to Cookology Culinary School. This is our location in Boston Quarter. We have been here since 2019. We have another one in Doylestown Center. We've been there since 2009. We've been in business for 13 whole years, aside from the pandemic, which I did a lot of sleeping. But here we are. You want to look in? This is what you see when you come by Boston Quarter. It's fun. It's fun. It's potential fun. Everybody is looking to do something with their friends and family. So here is the front door. Follow the sign.
I'm setting an example for my kids.
I got me a side hustle.
I have more control of my destiny.
I need multiple streams of income.
It's hard work, but I'm working for me.
A job is cool, but I need more.
It's all about being self-employed. You're tuned into the world of Self-Employed and Rising with Art Taylor, where we bring you the amazing stories of people who are challenging the odds and following their dreams of self-employment. Learn from their successes and be inspired. Hear creative ideas for your business and find tips to take your hustle to another level.
And we're back with the man himself, Art Taylor. He is the host of the brand new show, Self-Employed and Rising. And we've been having a wonderful conversation with Art. The things we've talked about, obviously, is what got him started. How is this president and CEO of Give.org, or BBB Wise Giving Alliance? Why is he so passionate about giving, about helping others? We learned a little bit about his start, the mentors in his life that made a difference, and why it's important for him to help people understand that you can be self-employed and rising. So Art has already told us he's going to be telling great stories on his show. He's going to get behind we don't want to say failures, but behind the challenges as well as the successes of persons who have come along. But in addition to that, his show is going to be a resource. He is going to help us with the tips, the tools, and the techniques for making your business better and maybe even scaling it. So one of the things Art was saying, some futuristic kind of thinking. What were you talking about, Art, and telling me on the break?
Well, I think it's important that we take the long view in life, in that while life is short, things change. And in order to be successful over a long period and throughout our lives, we have to be aware of future possibilities.
Okay.
We have to sort of follow shifts that are going on in our environment so that we can be prepared and adapt and successful with those shifts. You know, one of the things that I think makes people afraid of change is that they're not ready for it.
Okay,
But,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree
So
with
if
that.
you were ready for it, I mean, you know, you should be prepared for it, right? You have an opportunity to get ready for it. Now, I will also tell you that if I was someone who could predict the future, then, you know, I would be, you know, Bill Gates or somebody, like I'd be a billionaire. So nobody can predict the future, but we can get an understanding of shifts that we see today and signals of things that we see today
Okay.
that can potentially give us an indication of where the future might lead. And I want to make sure we focus on that, because one of the reasons I think too few people get in business is that they don't have exposure to things that are going on beyond today.
Okay.
And I think we have to expose them to possibilities. Let me give you one example. You talked earlier about something that's not only a shift now, it's actually with us, and we call it algorithmic coordination.
Okay, I don't remember saying algorithmic coordination.
No, you didn't
but
say
I'm going
that.
to take your word for it.
But let me just give you
Okay.
a sense of what I'm talking about. So today, if you want food, if you want a car, if you want a product, you pick up your phone and someone brings it to you. An algorithm is going to connect you with that service that you want, and someone is going to come. You're going to pay them on your phone. They're going to get paid. They're going to go on to the next customer. You're going to be able to work at your leisure. If you want to work, you sign on to work. If you don't want to work, you don't sign on to work, and they're not part of the algorithm. So we get to sign on and off to the algorithm for services and to provide services.
Wow. No, that's really true. I mean, when you think about it, that's mind blowing, but that's really true.
So we see it now in the purveyance of different foods, products through big companies, and I'm not going to mention them. We see that now, but imagine that expanding to almost anything. So we have an app for driving, but what if we also had an app to get our pet clean? Probably we do. Somebody will come pick up your pet. What if we had an app for lawn service? What if we had an app for a roofer? What if we had an app for the regular things that we need on a regular basis? I have this vision of something, for instance, imagine being able to build your house by signing on to an app, and at some point the payment gets made to the builder. All of the products and services that you need are coming together from different people who signed on to the app to provide those different services. And you don't even need to really shop. You're essentially signing on, telling them what you want, and the app is coordinating all of this for you. This is the world we're in. And for those of us in business, it's a great world because we can sign on to provide different components for that particular product. Just imagine that that's a future world. And I want people to see that as a possibility because it opens up all kinds of ways for you to make money.
I love that. If I had known, just thinking about in terms of what was happening, if I had known at the beginning of the pandemic, I would have bought stock in Purell, or I would have started my own hand sanitizer company. I would have started making masks. So all of those things. And obviously we're not talking about, predicting, catastrophe, but you're going to be bringing individuals on the show. So not just the wonderful stories of those who are making it, but people who can help you make it because they can
have this vision. So like I think about, Carolyn, the environment. There's so many different opportunities to make money by helping us to save the environment. And I think we just got to get people exposed. Even my wife, again, her clothing business is around making your clothes go longer or extending them so that they're not, clogging up the environment. We throw so many clothes away, but maybe we can repurpose them, as she says, get people to re-love them.
Yeah, and I do like that. And I'm seeing, when we think about recycling, obviously recycling, but recycling clothing and turning them to other things. I was looking at a watch last evening, completely made of recycled materials.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of that. So self-employed and rising is going to speak to those micro businesses, to someone that maybe has a legitimate business. I don't want to say, excuse me, let me back that word back. Everything is legitimate. Somebody that has a business that they acknowledge. So we want to, first of all, help you acknowledge that you are in business.
I'm talking to you.
Self-employed, and that Art is talking to you.
I'm talking to you.
So going to help you understand that, because once you dignify that, or you help a person understand that it's more than what they thought it was, then they can do more with it, and you can help them do more with it.
Exactly.
So not just those stories, but if you are a story out there of somebody that is up and coming, come on in the show. Reach out to Art Taylor and make sure that he knows. You can go to rtv.network and contact us there, or you can join any of the conversations. This will air on television, obviously, but they can reach out to you, and we'll make sure each week that Art has his show, you're going to be able to tell your story, or if you have a resource, if you can be a resource, That's what we want to know, because who would have imagined that at our fingertips, pretty much we're doing just about everything you want. And so I love this idea of forecasting and benefiting. I mean, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know the people that know it.
That's right.
So being able to maximize things. So the idea of self-employed and rising means you don't have to wait for someone to give you a job. You can be that job, and in time you can become that employer. So then you're bringing other people on. I think back to the gentleman with the one truck who became 2 trucks, and the next thing you know, he's a bit of a
He's
conglomerate.
a trucking company now.
A trucking company.
Well, when he had his first truck, he was in business. But now, it's just wonderful to watch this kind of thing unfold, and it happens. And so I want to make it happen more often. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We're going to tell these stories, and then people with serious money are going to say, hey, we need to find so-and-so who was on your show because we want to invest in that.
And that's what we want to hear. So Art, I'm trying to keep my eye to the sky. In the last 90 seconds, just encourage, how can you encourage our viewers and our listeners to tune into you? Because I love the idea of somebody wanting to invest in me and what I'm doing. So,
well, the first thing is we're going to invest because we're trying to give you exposure, because you're going to tell this wonderful story and you're giving it back by telling that story so others can be inspired. So we're doing that because that's in my heart to give, right? But we also want to see people succeed. And I just believe that, as I started the show, America is open for those who want to be in business. That's what this country is really about. We have a compassion to that, because when people really fall off, we want to try to help and do something so they can get back in the game. But the game is owning businesses, providing services, creating products that people can use. That's America. And that's how we take advantage of the best that this country has to offer.
All right, you heard it from the mouth of Art Taylor. He's going to be here to help you become self-employed or rising, or continue to rise on your self-employment journey. My name is Carolyn Howe with RTV.network, and you've got your brand new host, Art Taylor, with Self-Employed and Rising. We look forward to seeing you next week and every week thereafter as you are self-employed and rising. Thank you so much for joining us. And Anthony's asleep.